So this is how buyers are going to, look at your business, right? And determine its value. So it's important that you understand this for your own business, but also if you're looking to do any acquisitions, how these numbers can tell a story for you to then go into a meeting with an owner and ask the right questions. Looking at the balance sheet like this, you can determine the health of a company that you're looking to acquire, or even your own company as well. Now, on Companies House, currently, it gives us limited access to information. So we've got to be able, as business owners or buyers, looking to understand these numbers and potentially looking to acquire this company. We need to understand the story that the balance sheet and that the numbers are telling. So for those who already know how to read a balance sheet, I'm going to go over this quickly. At the top, you've got your fixed assets here. So in for this company, it's £300,000. So this could be stuff like plant and machinery. It could be property investments. It could even be vehicles, any sort of tangible assets that the business has. Then we've got current assets, which it says here. Look, we've got stock, debtors, which is people who owe us money when we raise an invoice, and then we've got cash in the bank as well. And then we've got creditors which have fallen due within 1 year. So this will be suppliers, and also might be some short-term loans in there as well. And then we have creditors falling due after 1 year. So this will be longer term loans, usually term loans, things like that, somewhere between 3 to 5 years or even more. And then that gives us sort of the balance of the business. So add all your assets up and take away your liabilities, puts us in a position here. So for this example, this company's got £15,000 worth more of liabilities than it has of assets. But what does this actually tell us? Okay, so there's a few things that I look at to determine the story and determine the health of this business here. The first one being the cash flow, because no matter how good a business is, cash flow is usually the number one killer of businesses, right? So what I'm looking at here is the creditors, so the amount of liabilities that this business has got to service within 1 year, 623,000, but it's only got current assets of 409,000. So if short-term creditors are more than your current assets, that usually signifies that the business undergoes cash flow issues or is undergoing cash flow issues. If it was the other way around and our current assets were in excess of our current liabilities, that essentially means that we could pay off all of our liabilities and still be left with cash. So if this was the other way around, if we had 623,000 in current assets and we had £400,000 in liabilities, if we were to settle them, then we would be in excess of £200,000. So the way this company is sitting now, it tells me that it does have cash flow issues because it's relying on sales to happen in that month for it to clear basically what it owes. So it's got no real buffer. The second thing I'm looking at as well is the movement in this figure here. So with this being a minus, it's likely that the company has made losses in previous years and it's accrued 41 or nearly £42,000 in losses. However, this loss here is reduced to £15,000, so it tells me that the company's made around about £25,000 profit in the previous year because this figure has reduced. So if we look at another set of accounts here, we can see, so this is a totally separate account, different company, but what is it telling us? So you can see it's a pretty healthy company. It's got net assets of 1.5 million, where this company here had net liability of £15,000. So this is really healthy, right? But if we look at the cash flow here, now this isn't necessarily true to the to the exact science, but it normally gives us an indication, right? So this company's got £1.1 million of short-term liabilities to meet, but it's got £2.5 million worth of current assets, meaning if they collected all of the invoices, they could pay off their liabilities and still be left with £1.4 million, right? Which is a pretty healthy position to be in. Now, if we look at the total equity here, there's not been much movement in there. There's only been a £50,000 movement, which tells us the business only made £50,000 profit. Now, if the business is raising £1.7 million worth of invoices, but it's only making £50,000 worth of profit, that is ringing alarm bells for me because the margins there are tiny. So we need to understand why. This screenshot here only gives us a certain amount of information, right, which we can make half a story with. The next part of this, if you were to look to acquire a business like this, is to really understand why. So have the business owners been taking all of the profits out of the business, and is that why it's only showing a £50,000 profit? Has it been a tough year? You know, what is the situation? And with the cash flow here, so it's got £1.7 million worth of debtors. That's £1.7 million of cash that it's owed. You know, how likely is it that all of that is going to be paid? Are there going to be any bad debts in here? Because although the business looks healthy, you know, it's got plenty of margin in its sort of asset to liability rate. So this is how buyers are going to, you know, look at your business, right? And determine its value. So it's important that you understand this for your own business, but also if you're looking to do any acquisitions, how these numbers can tell a story for you to then go into a meeting with an owner and ask the right questions.